Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are, whenever you're watching this. This is Floating in Dreams. Today's video is going to be my 5 palette review for October. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. Instead of 5 palettes, I'm reviewing 8 for you today. Let me explain to you how that happened. I wanted to make sure that I reviewed some of the new Essence and Catrice palettes, and some of those were very small things, so I kind of just roped them in as one entry. And then Catrice actually launched a fall collection that I heard nothing about. It just popped up at my local drugstore and I picked up the palette. I didn't even haul it for you guys, but I am roping it in already in this review. And if you stay tuned to when we discuss that palette in this video, then I might have picked up an extra one so I can give it away because it's a really cool color story. So yeah, 8 palettes here for you today. Let's just get started. In case you're new here, hi, my name is Maaike. I live in the Netherlands. I like to come on here to chat about eyeshadow palettes, Essence and Catrice reviews, getting the use out of my makeup. And because I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, I deem myself a snow angel. So if you would like to join the Snow Angel Club, then definitely click subscribe down below. Yeah, I've got 8 palettes to chat about with you guys, which is quite a lot. It's more than I normally would want to do, but as I already mentioned, there are some like smaller things in here that I was like, you know, that's more like one entry rather than 2. So I decided to combine some things here, and in case you have never seen one of these videos before, it may be good to know that I always include close-ups of like swatches and also some eye looks that I've done with all of these palettes. I've tried every single shade in these eyeshadow palettes that I'm talking about with you today. So let me just get started with the first sort of entry, which is these 2 mini palettes from Essence that are new for fall winter. Now, if you are in the US, and I think also if you can shop through the European website from Essence, which they don't ship to the Netherlands, unfortunately, but there are some other new palettes in. There's now a London palette, like they did some destination palettes in the springtime. I think I bought the Rome one and the Miami one that I've tried, and they now do one with London, and there are a couple of other destinations, but those haven't launched here. But we did get these things. So this is the Don't Worry Be ... palette, and this is the Don't Stop Believing in ... palette. And these I already showed when I did my Essence overview. I did a look live on camera with this gray toned one, which has some lovely taupey shades. So you knew I was gonna love this. And I agreed with a lot of the people who were commenting on that video saying how nicely the look came together and how good taupe eyeshadows look on me. I know it's one of the reasons why it's one of my favorite eyeshadow shades to wear. So I knew this was going to be successful, so I already did that in that video. I did take pictures when I did that, but if you want to see this going on and how it performs live on camera, then I do have a video with that as well, so I'll make sure to link it down below. And then the other palette I still had to try was the pink toned one, which actually doesn't have a single pink. Well, it looks pink in the pan because of the packaging, but this is actually more like a mauvey pink. It's got a lot of plum running through it, and that's exactly how I would categorize this color story. It's mauvey plums. It's still cool toned. Both of these are cool toned, and this just looks so stunning on the eyes as well. For how big these are and how expensive these are actually really good. Are these color stories revolutionary? Not by any means, but I did like how the mattes blended, how the shimmers applied, and I also like how the distribution of the mattes and shimmers are in these palettes. Each one has 3 shimmers, 3 mattes. I do feel that, for instance, a shade like this is just a bit superfluous. Like, I don't really need that creamy shade if I also have a light shade like this. And you could, of course, mix these 2 shades together to create a deeper crease shade as well. So I find these palettes surprisingly versatile, especially for what Essence sometimes does. Here as well, you get that shade that you can mix. And here we don't get that light creamy shade. So I feel this one is a bit more unique because the lightest thing you get is this, which is actually just a really good blend shade. And here I perhaps could have done without this like gold shade. I think I'd have liked it better if, for instance, we got a shimmer that's more like this, like a really nice chocolatey brown shimmer in here. I would have liked even better. So yeah, these are great, really basic eyeshadow palettes, and I believe these are, because they are very small, they are cheaper than usual eyeshadows from Essence as well. They're very small though. Like, this is a Charlotte Tilbury quad, and they're roughly the same size. So that's what you perhaps should know. I don't think you get a whole lot of product. You only get 5 grams of product, so you don't get a whole lot. But I think, you know, if you're traveling again, or maybe if you're like going over to your boyfriend's place and you're doing your makeup there, or maybe you need to travel for work or whatever, these are just really nice basic eyeshadow palettes to just throw in a bag and have something on you. And especially the taupey one can be a bit more glammed up and can work really, really well as like a nighttime eyeshadow palette. So especially if you're someone who likes to like upgrade their eyeshadow look from like daytime to nighttime when you go out for drinks with friends after work, then I think that's a nice one to have as well, because you can just pop it into a bag, you take some travel brushes with you, and you can actually apply it. So I like those. They don't have mirrors though, so that does make it a bit more challenging to apply it. Oh well, you can't have everything at that price point, but these are nice. Next up, Charlotte Tilbury Walk of No Shame. So this is a quad that I didn't buy myself. This is a color story that I was gifted as a freebie when I placed my order on the Charlotte Tilbury website for Black Friday last year. They always do a lot of these, like, if you spend this much money, you will get this freebie, and if you spend this much, and it sort of accumulates, so the more money you spend, the more freebies you get. Which is why I usually save up my entire Charlotte Tilbury wish list for Black Friday, just so I can get all the freebies and try some new products for free. And this was this year's freebie, and I have to say I'm not mad about it, in the sense of I'm not super raving about it. It's a nice palette, but I'm also not upset with how this performs. It performs like I know a Charlotte Tilbury quad to perform. The color story would personally not be my pick per se. It's very warm toned, but I did like how it has a bit of a rosy undertone on me. It's sort of like rose gold in a palette. I thought that especially this shade, which I used in the crease, was really, really good when I blended it out. Like, these 3 shades are stunning. The topper shade is one that you need to understand is just the topper. This is just meant to like be applied with a finger and just tapped onto the lid. This is not supposed to be a full-on shimmer. And I think that if you take that into account with these, that you will not be as disappointed as some people sometimes say they are with Charlotte Tilbury quads, because yes, but these are supposed to be the pigmented shades. This one is not supposed to have the pigment. And I liked how this came together on the eyes for sure. I'm happy that I have it. Am I going to keep this around in my collection? No, but I was happy to try another one of these. And yeah, Charlotte Tilbury, in terms of like bang for your buck, this also has 5 grams of product, and I think this is like, what, 20, maybe 30 times more expensive than the Essence ones? So I let you make up your mind when it comes to whether this would be worth it for you. This is why I'm like, if I can get it as a freebie, I'm happy. This is not something I would have put my own money towards for sure. And then we get to some new Catrice bits. So Catrice launched another 5-in-a-box palette. This is 070 Elegant Khaki Look. And I already said it then when I used it on camera. Again, this is a palette I used in my update video, so I can leave that link down below so you can see this how it performs live on camera. For a palette that's called Khaki and only getting like 1 Khaki shade that doesn't even pull very green once you apply it, is a bit disappointing perhaps to some people. I know that some people were hoping that this could be like the Catrice version of the Natasha Denona Mini Retro, because they were hoping that these would be like these sagey greens and then the peachy tones. That's not what this does at all. This is just a gold with a green undertone. So in terms of color story, it's not wholly exciting, but I have said in the past how much I love the 5-in-a-box formula from Catrice, and I feel that this is very much up to par with the way the other palettes I've tried in the line perform. So this works really well. We do get a Khaki shade, but yes, like many other people, I would have loved this if it was more green, and we didn't get another gold, because some of the other palettes in this line already have gold. So did we need this one? Maybe not. And in here, what I liked is that we do get that peachy shade, giving you some slightly different options, because you could use this in the crease, which is what I did for the first look I did. But the second look, I used the peachy shade in the crease, and then I used the Khaki shade more so as a deepening up shade, and I felt that that worked as well. And then you just get these lighter beige tones to sort of blend things out with and use it as a topper or inner corner highlight. And I do think it works quite well. For instance, if you were to put this green all over the lid and you were to top it with this beigey shade, I think that's another really great like easy look to do. So this definitely has potential. I just think that a lot of people got very overexcited when the first like pictures of this eyeshadow palette launched. A lot of people were hoping it to be something it's just not gonna do, and I don't think you should expect Catrice to do that. Again, these are very cheap and cheerful. They look like a Natasha Denona palette. I feel that these are some of the best eyeshadow palettes at the drugstore that you can personally like get at the moment. So this is just another lovely eyeshadow palette from Catrice. But if you were hoping that this could be like that sagey green dupe for something that Natasha Mini Retro does, it's not that. Then the other palette that they launched is another update for an already existing line, and it's their Pro Slim line. And they came out with the Desert Romance. I should show it to you like this, because this is how the lettering goes. So the Pro Slim Desert Romance eyeshadow palette. And this is sort of like, you know what you see quite a lot right now? These like warm tones with yellows. This is very warm toned, so I knew this was not going to be my favorite one, but some of these Pro Slim palettes weren't all made in the same quality, I felt. So I already have several reviews up with these palettes as well that come from the line, and I did a video comparing them. I did the same thing for the 5 in a Box, so I'll make sure I link those videos down below as well, and any blog posts that I have with reviews of these, because I did already like talk about these in other content before. I've heard a lot of people say how this one is not their favorite because it doesn't have the same quality, and I would disagree with it. I feel it has very similar quality to some of the better performing palettes in this line for sure. I just think that what hurts this palette the most is that you're not always getting the shades you want or need to do a full look in the textures or finishes that you might want. I feel that we get quite a lot of like similar-ish shades, like these three like reddish tones, like they kind of look the same on the eye. This, and this is quite similar. Also within the shimmer formula, I mean, we get 2 golds, we get 2 of these like cranberry-like shades. So I feel there could just have been more variety in the different shades we got. And this also doesn't go very deep. Again, this has been an issue I've had with a lot of these palettes, is that they don't go very deep. I would have liked it if one of those like lighter mid-tone shades could have been a really good dark brown or possibly even a black, because I feel this really has the potential to be this really dark, deepening fall vibes kind of palette. And I just felt it didn't. Now, earlier in the month, the Catrice and Essence line came out with the limited edition Disney Villains collection. And a lot of people were saying how the Queen of Hearts palette by Catrice very much reminded them of the look of this one. And I don't feel they look the same. The Queen of Hearts really gave me these like sunset-y kind of vibes. And where this has that in the overall palette, I was not able to create that kind of look on myself. I feel that this is more like the earthy vibes of a desert, whereas the Queen of Hearts was more like the sunsets that you get in a desert. Does that make sense? I don't know. But I felt that there was a slightly different vibe in that palette that made it like a very, like, I really like the look I created with that palette. And I also like the looks I did with this. It's just that I think that if you love warm tones, that I think this is one that you'll like. But for me, I kind of know I will not be going back to this because it's just not my color story. The yellow in here, I know people will want to know. It does build up, but as I've had issues with almost all of these palettes where there is this pop of color where you can struggle building it up. With this, you do have to keep going a few times before you get the intensity that you see in the pan. So it can be built up, but don't expect it to go on fully opaque with a blending brush like, you know, some indie brands can sometimes do with their colorful mattes. That's not the quality that Catrice is aiming for. These are very blendable, very easy to use for sure. So is this a good palette? I say yes, quality-wise, but the color story I feel isn't 100% my favorite. And then we need to discuss this. This is the Catrice Fall in Colors limited edition eyeshadow palette. So this collection came also with a face palette and I believe some brushes. Those didn't really appeal to me, but this velvety burgundy packaging with the gold, it looks very sort of flapper style, like 90-20s vibe. That's what I'm getting from it. And then I opened it up and I was like, that's giving me Huda Beauty Naughty Nude vibes, but more cool toned, because this definitely has like some cooler shades in here with like the plums, and so there's definitely something else going on here that I feel the Naughty Nude was like a bit too rich and burgundy for me. Do we get something that's truly burgundy in here? A little bit, but I feel, for instance, that these two shades pull more orange on me. The way it kind of splits for me is like warm tones-ish, not necessarily, and then your rosy tones, which are more mauvey cool tones. So Catrice has actually done a lot of these palettes already in the past, where they've done these larger palettes that are limited edition for a certain season. I tried the NEONUDE, I think about a year and a half ago. So I'll make sure to link that review in the description box down below as well. And very often these are online exclusives, so they aren't always sold in stores, making them a bit harder to find. And these are also sometimes a bit more expensive. These retail for $14.95, I believe. A lot of them actually dupe out Huda Beauty palettes, which is why some people have been asking me in the comments, like, can you try those larger palettes from Catrice, because they're dupes for Huda Beauty, but the palettes that they dupe from Huda Beauty, I don't personally own, because those color stories didn't appeal to me. Something like the, what's it called, the New Nude. I never tried that from Huda Beauty because it had those glitters and like, I didn't love that. But yeah, Catrice has been keeping that train running as well, and now we get this. This was stunning. Stunning when I started using it, because it is a neutral palette. I was saying how this is warm toned and this is more cool toned, but I feel that once you apply this to the eyes, at least on my undertone, I got some really stunning, more saturated fall colorful looks that I just love. The only thing we get in here that makes it super warm toned is the orange shade. If you leave out the orange, of course it's in the middle of the palette, so this is going to be difficult to show you. But it's very neutral actually. And I did 3 looks with this. I did one that's more so like going into like the plummy shades, and then one with these like more warm tone shades up here, and then one with more like the mauvey shades over on this side of the palette. So I felt this came together really, really well, and I liked it so much that I was like, you know what? Before I sit down and film that video, I need to see whether my drugstore has an extra one. So yeah, I now have 2 of these. And this still has the cover on, because guess what I'm going to be doing? I'm going to be giving away this palette, because I know it's going to be harder to find, and especially if you're, for instance, in the US, or if you're in a territory where Essence and Catrice stuff releases super late, like the UK or wherever. I thought more people need to know about this palette, so I'm going to give away one of them. And if you want to win this, all you need to do is just pop a comment in the description box down below saying, I want to win the palette, or something along those lines. And if you don't want to, then of course you don't have to. That's all you need to do, and by the end of the month, like around November 1st, I will just pick a winner. I'm not going to run it for too long. I just thought I want to give this away because I think it's such a good palette, so I want to pop it in a giveaway, and they still had some left at my local drugstore. So yeah, the Catrice Fall in Colors, if you can get your hands on it, I think it's by far one of the best palettes Catrice has ever done. The color story is great. The quality of the shimmers. I wish we got this kind of quality in the limited edition Villains, Disney Villains collection. This is not the same. It is a little bit more expensive, but I feel that for drugstore, I mean, over here, the e.l.f. Earth and Ocean would retail for the similar price point. Those are around 15 euros as well. And I feel that this has that same sort of like drugstore, but feels like high-end quality to it. And that's why I wanted to make sure I popped this in a giveaway, because I was like, this, more people need to own this, because this is showing me once again how drugstore can just do some really lovely things. And finally, I have 2 palettes from Ather Beauty. So I bought some Ather Beauty when they had their 4th of July sale going on, and I got this one with like 40% discount, and this was like 25% discount. So I think buying both of them, including all of the shipping and handling fees, which, because I bought this through their US website and their shipping wasn't outrageously expensive. I think it was only 10 euros or $10 for shipping, which was great. And then I had to pay for shipping and handling fees, but because the cost of the package wasn't that high, because I believe they did put the sale price on the front of the package, in the end, what I paid for these 2 palettes is what I would have paid for buying just one of these, because these retail for around like the 40-45 euro mark if you buy just one at full price. And so it was a really good deal and I couldn't say no. And these 2 were on my wish list. I knew I wanted to try Ather Beauty this year. It was one of the 10 brands I had selected to try in 2020. And then they did that massive sale and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this. So I first played around with the Rose Quartz, and this was one I was really itching to try ever since I saw Hannah Louise Poston playing with this on her channel. This is a lovely cool toned color story. One thing you should know, if you love mattes, you're not gonna love Ather Beauty, because this has 3 mattes and everything else is shimmer. This is a matte, this is a matte, and that gray tone on the side is a matte. Everything else has shimmer to it, and these aren't the like super foily metallic shimmers, but these, how should I explain it? They're satin shimmers with sparkle, and that's not a good description, and I'm not doing these shades justice. And I also had a look at the way the pictures looked of the looks that I did with this palette, and also those pictures don't do it justice, because something happens to these shades when it captures the light. And I can't explain it. I believe that these are infused with crystals. I'm always a bit skeptical when brands make these kind of claims, but Ather Beauty is a clean beauty brand, and in these shimmers there is a level of shine to them that doesn't make them metallic. It's not glitter because it doesn't fall down your face. And yet, when you hold this, like especially if you wear this on a sunny day like we've got today, it looks really stunning. These are very soft, very blendable, and that's why I think it doesn't look great in the pictures I took, because they kind of look in the pictures like they blended away into nothing and it looks a bit muddy. But I just didn't feel it look like that when I was applying it in real life. This just goes to show that pictures only tell half the story sometimes. I really, really enjoyed this. This is such a good basic everyday palette, a bit like the Essence ones actually. And in here, I just really, really like the tones that we get. Granted, I would have liked this gray shade to be a taupey matte rather than a gray. This is very blue toned, and I feel it doesn't go with all of the things that are going in here. But that's the only issue I have with this palette. It's lovely, it's stunning. I think it's worth the sale price point that I paid for this, but I don't think that this is necessarily worth the $45 retail value that this normally goes for. So with Ather Beauty, I would definitely go for a sale rather than using it, like buying it full price, especially if you're in Europe, just to make it worth it a bit more for yourself. But yeah, I really, really like this color story. I love the way this looked on the eye. It felt magical. Magical. If you're looking for magical shadow without it being like duochrome or like super flippy or really metallic, but you want that softer vibe, this is the answer. Then the final palette that I tried from them is their Moonlight Crystal palette. I hope that's what it's called. I threw the box away. It's nowhere on the packaging. But this was one I wanted because it's got the blues, the greens, and the purples with a pop of something teal. I'm wearing actually the look I did with this palette today, and this is actually more successful for me than the Very Neutral one, I feel. I felt these had a level of blendability, especially in like these darker shimmer shades, that I just did not expect these palettes to have. They are very soft, and when you pick them up with a brush, it looks like they're gonna dust everywhere, and you're just going to get this, like, it feels like you're just going to get the sparkle, but then the brush does deposit the color. So I was able to pop this darker purple into the outer V, into the crease, without any issues. These two tealy shades have my heart. We get a blurple in here. Like, this has all the shades I love and then some. The only thing I feel this palette is missing is a matte transition, because here we only, yeah, again, we get 3 mattes, the dark gray, this teal, and this like purpley pink. What I would have liked is if there was a matte that would go more with this half of the palette, because I feel I get that purple, so that goes with this, but it doesn't really go with this like taupey beige shimmering shade, the pink, or this softer green. So I feel we get very light, very bright, and very dark, but we don't have anything that really bridges the gap between those things. So that's the only thing I would have liked. Perhaps make this a more neutral matte, then it would have gone, like, it could have worked with all the shades, but because it's very purple heavy, it doesn't go with all the shades. That's the only thing here. But today, I'm wearing this in the crease, you guys. That really dark gray shade looks stunning for a smoky eye. I'm wearing this shimmer all over the lid, and I am this shade. It's so gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. And the best part is it translates to the lid when you wear these. It's not like that like weird shadow where the shimmer just doesn't translate. When you wear this in real life, it just works so much better. And I, again, think that the pictures I took of these looks don't do it justice. This is really, really stunning. And since I got it on a 40% off sale, I am a little bit afraid that this might be disappearing if it hasn't already. But of these two palettes, I feel this is the more unique one to my makeup collection. And I think I'm actually going to be getting more use out of it. But I also think that they make a great pair. Like, if I hold them together, do you just see that? I have those midtones that I was saying I was missing in the other palette. I've got them here, and this has the depth. The top one has the depth that this is lacking. So I feel they make a great pairing, and I just really, really like these. Again, would I say that this is worth the full price point? I don't think so. I don't think this formula is going to appeal to everyone. That's the reason why I'm saying this. I think that if you were to go into this blindly and you've worked with shadow before, this is a very different formula compared to other things I've tried. At least that's the way it feels to me. And I think that that might take some getting used to. And I'm not saying that this feels like cheap shadow at all. But I do think that the way they perform and the way they are priced, there's a bit of a hike up, I feel. I'm sure that maybe these shadows are really difficult, like very expensive to formulate and to produce. I have no clue about that end of things, but I feel that the way these perform, it very much reminds me of Zoeva palettes. And I know that that's also a formula not a lot of people like, but I love it. I love all of my Zoeva palettes. I'm gonna take them to the grave with me, I'm sure. And those retail for around 25 euros. And I feel that that's a better price point for these than the 40, 45 price point that these actually go for. So that's why I would recommend getting these on a sale. So those were the 8 eyeshadow palettes that I wanted to review for you in today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so very much for joining me. Thumbs up the video if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more by me. I will be doing a lot of other eyeshadow palette related content. I do them at least once a week, whether it's a review or an overview of palettes I love or going back to older palettes. I've got a lot more in store for you. So if you'd like to stay tuned, and I hope to see you in my next video. Have a great day, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.